Next, we have on the agenda House File 3486. This is Representative Chair Freiberg's bill. If Chair Freiberg would like to come down, I'd like to have this bill voted on by 1:50, so we've got enough time for discussion on this. I move to re-refer House File 3486 to the Public Safety, Finance, and Policy Committee. Chair Freiberg, welcome to the committee. Please introduce your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. I have an A2 amendment also.
A2 or A3?
Oh, actually, I think some terms might have been updated in it. I think it is the A3 now that you say that.
Okay. If you'd like to, I will move the author's A3 amendment. Chair Freiberg, would you like to explain your amendment?
Sure. This reflects suggestions from DHS, the Department of Corrections, and the licensing boards. Would put the bill in the shape I'd like.
Okay, this is get the bill in the shape the author would like. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the author's A3 amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is approved and the amendment is added on, so we will go to explanation of the House File 3486 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Minnesota Recovery Options Act is a straightforward bill to ensure that Minnesotans who are being required to receive substance abuse disorder treatment by the state receive care that is appropriate for them. Minnesota has a strong interest in effectively addressing substance use disorders among those involved with the criminal legal system. Approximately 90% of incarcerated people in Minnesota have been diagnosed with a substance use disorder, and such disorders can increase recidivism if left untreated. As a state, we've made significant efforts to address these issues, and Minnesota has among the best substance use disorder treatment programs in the world. However, in some cases, individuals are being required by the state criminal legal system to participate in programs that are inappropriate for them, which can undermine recovery. For example, individuals may object to religious or other elements of substance use disorder programs. Many of the most common peer-based recovery programs are 12-step programs, which typically have religious or spiritual elements. Other programs may discourage medication-assisted treatment, which is recommended as a best practice and important to recovery for many people. And these programs work well for a great many people. Many folks have achieved and maintained sobriety through programs like Alcoholics Anonymous. However, it's clear they don't work for everyone. In particular, non-religious Minnesotans, who make up about 1/4 of the population, and religious minorities, who are about 5% of the population, may object to being required by the state to participate in religious programming that conflicts with their beliefs. We're not talking about people objecting to being required to participate in substance use disorder treatment in general. Many recognize that they need help and want to receive it. But the religious components in some programs can be a barrier for those who object to them, and that can make these treatment programs less effective. Courts have also found that it is unconstitutional to require individuals to participate in religious treatment programs that they object to. However, people involved with the criminal legal system may not know about their rights, or they may not be in a situation where they can assert their rights. Therefore, this bill takes a proactive approach, increasing the range of appropriate treatment programs available, providing notice to individuals of their rights, and reinforcing existing constitutional protections on this issue throughout the criminal legal system. This bill is meant to ensure that every person required by the state to receive substance use disorder treatment is able to access treatment appropriate to them, not be forced into a one-size-fits-all option. It will reduce recidivism, respect religious freedom, and help reduce liability by ensuring that individuals' rights are not violated. The simple fact is that no one should ever be forced by the state to take part in religious programming they object to, and their recovery and freedom should never depend on it. By making appropriate treatment more accessible, this bill will help achieve that goal. And I'd like to turn it over to my testifiers.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chair Freiberg. I believe the first person I have is Stephen Kind.
Correct.
Thank you for taking the time to be here today. If you'd like to please introduce yourself, who you're with, and begin your testimony. And I'm providing 2 minutes for each testifier.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Fisher.
You're welcome.
My name is Steve Kind. I've served the state of Minnesota as a certified peer recovery specialist, and I'm currently serving as the Minnesota Outreach Coordinator for the Smart Recovery National Office. The Recovery Options Act means a lot to me, as I've seen firsthand what happens, limited options, what happens when limited options are available to finding a successful recovery. It started with my own story of being unaware of the alternatives to 12-step programs. I went through treatment 4 times, countless AA and NA meetings, spanning the ages from age 19 up to age 54. My attempts at sobriety never reached 6 months in length. My last attempt at sobriety was different. A forward-thinking counselor at the last 12-step facility I attended suggested that I look into smart recovery. She was not real familiar with smart recovery, but she encouraged me to investigate it and see what it was all about. Thanks to her suggestion, I found a program that fit me. I'll be celebrating 6 years of sobriety in June of this year. Soon after finding my sobriety, I received training as a certified peer recovery specialist and began working at a men's house in southern Minnesota. I was helping to manage a house with 18 men. In doing my weekly interviews with these men, I was seeing my personal story mirrored in some of them. Many were happy with the 12-step pathway to sobriety and doing quite well. There were others that were struggling with that pathway. These men felt coerced as one of the house rules was a requirement of meeting weekly with a sponsor. Sponsors are only part of 12-step programs. As a smart recovery facilitator, I see many who have struggled with AA or NA and found relief in finding a program that fits them. About half of our group does smart recovery and in other programs such as AA or NA or Celebrate Recovery. Pathways to a peaceful and successful sobriety are about as varied as the people seeking it. I ask that you pass this important legislation to help those searching for the right program find it and thrive in their sobriety. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, and thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next testifier I have is John Capesius, if I'm pronouncing that properly. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and begin your testimony.
My name is John Capacious. I'm a SMART facilitator, have been for about a year and a half. When I first needed treatment, I went into a 12-step program, and I learned that 12-step wasn't going to be something that was going to sustain me. So I was to graduate from it, I needed to be in a 12-step or some kind of recovery program with a sponsor. And my counselor had never even heard of different alternatives, didn't recommend any alternatives. Someone else in my group gave me the option of SMART. And so as I looked into SMART, it definitely fit me better with a scientific background, and it focuses on that. There's many out there. AA does work very well for some. SMART was just my path, and that is what got me sober. Now, last night I facilitated a meeting with 17 people in it from all over the country, and everyone in there basically said if it wasn't for SMART, they wouldn't be sober right now. They all had different backgrounds, and some had been in AA for years, some had not, but they all did agree that without SMART, they wouldn't be sober today. So I think everyone needs to be able to do recovery their way, or it's not going to work, because if you're at all forced, it doesn't work. So, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Capesius, for being here and for your testimony. Appreciate it. Next, I have Janelle Colburn. If you'd like to come forward, thanks for taking the time to come to the Capitol today. Welcome to our committee. Please introduce yourself and begin your testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is Janelle Colburn, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today. I work professionally as a qualified rehabilitation consultant with, as a QRC, working with workers' comp. But I have a wide background, and I started out as a chemical dependency counselor in my first life back in the late 90s. And with the beginnings of Hennepin County Drug Court, I was honored to be able to pilot that with Judge Burke. And I watched people coming out of the Department of Corrections system, and they were a little bit lost. They were all forced into the 12-step program. And again, as you've heard today, it's wonderful for some, but for others, it was, people were kind of stuck. And I worked with, the one person who sticks out in my mind was a Native American gentleman who would spend all of his time going to the 12-step meetings, and then he would skirt around and head over and meet with the elders, and be given the opportunity to practice his Native American spirituality. And he would come to my office and tell me that was what it was that was going to work for him. He wasn't going to, but he would jump through the hoops and go through the other programs if that's what they required of him. Personally, Later in my life, I developed a chemical use problem, and I used alcohol as my drug of choice. I have 22 months sobriety actually today. And I started out with AA. I would go to speaker meetings, and at the end of the meeting, or when I was asked to introduce myself, I would say that I was in recovery. Hi, my name is Janelle. Alcohol is my drug of choice, and I'm in recovery. I got pulled aside by the elders at the meeting and said that that's not a word that we use around here. And that was very difficult for me to go back to those meetings after being told that that wasn't going to be acceptable for them, that language. And I did go into treatment and was introduced to Recovery Dharma, which is a meditation-based Eastern program that became very, very helpful to me. It was what I latched onto in the beginning, and is what helped me find my sobriety. I also found Smart Recovery upon my graduation from treatment, and have become a SMART facilitator. What I love about the program is that they allow people to meet recovery on their own terms. They aren't judgmental. The people are allowed to be vulnerable. They use transformational stages of change, motivational interviewing, cognitive behavioral therapy, rational emotive behavioral therapy. They attach a lot of tools, and so that those people are allowed to express their emotions and go to their counselors and have their treatment and recovery program match the professional care that they're getting outside, if that's what they're choosing to do. And that's all that I have for you today, but thank you very much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us. We appreciate it. Are there any other testifiers that would like to testify on this bill? Not seeing any, I'll go to questions from the committee. First person I have is Representative Finke.
Thank you, Chair Fisher and Representative Freiberg, excuse me, for your bill. I always do that wrong. Thank you to the testifiers, and congratulations on your 22 months. I'm 10 days short of 4 years, so it's a big deal. Congratulations. I just wanted to get some. It sounds like the space that we're working in is kind of reentry and in incarcerated and reentry programs, but does this bill apply to all SUD programs in any placement or voluntary SUD treatment programs? Do you know?
Chair Freiberg.
No, this bill is primarily about reentry, so there's just the chapters of law that it relates to deal with corrections, treatment programs related to corrections, criminal sentences, release, substance abuse disorder license treatment facilities, provider personnel policies, Mental Health Uniform Service Standards Act. Anyway, it's primarily about reentry.
Okay.
Sorry, Representative Finke.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, well, that's good to know. I'm one of the things that I think about a lot when we're talking about religion and SUD programs, especially for my community. You can't go far without meeting a trans person who has not been able to stay in an SUD program because of non-affirming religious teachings. It's very common. It's very difficult for trans people to be affirmed and in treatment. Unfortunately, there just aren't that many options, and some of our most present and visible SUD programs are explicitly anti-trans. So that's something I'd like to talk about more in our committee in the future, but it sounds like this is to the extent that our community is heavily incarcerated. So of course this overlaps, but that's a broader conversation I look forward to.
Thank you, Representative Finke. Any other comments or questions? Representative Baker.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Freiberg. This is interesting. I guess I appreciate the testifiers today because everybody has their own way of recovery and healing. I think the testifiers today are spot on. There's different methods, and some people choose more heavily religious factors like Teen Challenge. Some are the 12-step. All of them kind of use that same general philosophy of a higher power, but it's also very different in how it's approached. So it's very lightly in some, it's a very light model, some are heavier. But my concern is only, not that we shouldn't have these choices, not that I'm gonna get hung up with, you know, what the atheists wanna do here for this type of recovery. That's not it. It's, my fear is maybe what the department thinks about creating this new lane of treatment and the rules that are gonna likely follow this kind of a bill and the pressure it's gonna put on our entire system to have now with folks that are going to be required by the courts to go to a place that may not exist because it's either a different place or it's not very many beds are out there. I'm worried about just this new line of thinking and the capacity that's ahead of us. So maybe this is just more of an aspirational thing that we should make sure that those choices are allowed. My fear is, and maybe to your thoughts on this, Representative Freiberg, is what about folks that are willing to go to treatment but are going to be so challenging to work with in the court systems that nothing is good enough or nothing is non-religious enough for them to take a yes answer to someplace. So is that a concern, or am I overreading this? I'm worried about the pushback we're going to get by maybe some folks who really don't want to do treatment. Courts really want them to do it, but there's nothing in that lane for them to take.
Chair Freiberg.
If that makes any sense.
Thank you. That's an excellent question, Representative Baker. I know you and I have had a brief discussion about this, and I know you've met with the advocates offline too, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to keep working with you on this too as this moves forward. I know it does need a couple more committee stops. I mean, if you look throughout the bill, I think one thing I did hear in the feedback we got from the agency is that in some areas there may not be a non-religious option, and we do want to make sure people have some sort of treatment available to them. So if you look through the bill, just to give you one example of the first instance, it appears like on line 2.14, it says, if an equivalent alternative treatment program is not available within a reasonable time, the offender may decline to participate in any religious element of a treatment program to which the offender objects. So I'm not an expert in, the 12-step program or anything. I know one of the 12 steps, from my understanding, is recognition of a higher power. So I imagine there would, with that one provision set aside, there would still be plenty of options there. If there's ways the language could be tweaked, though, I'd certainly be more than happy to discuss it with you as this moves forward, because I know you have a lot of expertise to offer in this area.
Representative Baker.
And I appreciate that. I think I really have relied a lot on the agency for these kinds of, choices and actually their concern about as you start going into a different kind of a treatment methodology, and again, a lot of these are being practiced in different ways now. I'm just nervous that we're going to put a lot of pressure, and I'm not saying it doesn't need to happen, but I'm just saying I'm curious about what the agency has to say. We don't have to do it today or have them come down today, but at some point I want to know what they're if they have any heartburn. Maybe they don't, and maybe they feel good about this, and maybe this is the place that we've got time to bring them down. But I know that this is a question that I have because I fear this is going to create a lot of work down the road, and I'm not sure how many folks are really asking for this. And maybe that's part of it too, is what is the demand out there? What is the percentage? I mean, I'm just kind of curious. So good. I see
Yes.
our friend has come down, so thank
Yes.
you for giving me the
Director
time.
Grom, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. If you'd like to come up and address the questions that Representative Baker is asking.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Christy Grom with DHS. So I assume that bill authors have also spoken with the Department of Public Safety because they're, a big player in this, in this bill too. And so we have worked with the advocates that are proponents of this bill. I think we're overall neutral on this. We support the policy direction. Some of the reforms that this legislature made last year around direct access or finalized last year into state law actually allow people to make these choices already. So we don't have a placing authority anymore where counties say, this is the treatment that you have to go to. So people really get to make their own choice based on what's going to be best for them and what their medical necessity is under our current medical assistance system. And so I think the courts do differ a little bit, and I don't think that they are not subject to that direct access reform, so it's a little bit different in that space. But overall, I know we've provided some technical assistance, and we're looking at the amendment, and if there are further tweaks, we'd be happy to continue working with bill authors and working with you, Representative Baker, and others.
Thank you, Director Grom. Representative Baker.
Yeah, and thanks. I think as I have listened to this more and have more time really to talk about this with Representative Freiberg, I think my concern is that, as you stated, Ms. Grom, you know, we've worked a lot here with getting our ASAM specific treatment places for the specific need of the patient or the person in recovery, whether it's brain trauma, whether it's different levels. And so we are painstakingly trying to get people to the right place before 4 other treatment centers have failed. Now, maybe we need to talk to other providers about the ones that are assigned for those kinds of specialty care. How can we help patients that want to make sure they have a zero religious input or lack thereof or something? So I think this is a process for me, Representative Freiberg, that I want to get my head around, because I think that I really want to hear from more providers that want to offer these very good services to the right person, so their assessment, when their assessment is done, they get to the right place. But how can we just not eliminate them because they have a cross on the wall? And I just want to make sure that we look at the reality to this and how the providers will help us guide this kind of policy. So that's really all I have to say right now, I guess, at this point. And I'm happy to visit with more folks on this issue. That's my biggest fear, is it's going to create too many roadblocks and hurdles and more complications in a system that's already overly complicated by trying to get to what we want to get to. So I'm hoping we can find a way to do that.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks.
Representative Baker. Appreciate that. Thank you, Director Brown, for coming down. Next on the list, I have Representative Karan.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Chair Freiberg, for bringing this bill forward. I know that this can be somewhat of a sensitive topic for folks to talk about, and I appreciate that you're tackling another tough topic for us. And I just wanted to make a comment that a lot of bills that we've been seeing throughout a lot of different committees are coming forward with an emphasis on culturally responsive and supportive services in a wide variety of areas throughout the legislature. And I see this as one of those bills. And, you know, I just want to make sure, you know, to say that having freedom of religion also means freedom from religion. And that's a valid choice that we have in this country. And so for some folks, that is going to make a life-changing difference when they're looking for this type of service to be successful in recovery. If someone is not connecting with religious teachings, but they can connect with another philosophy, with something else, connect in other ways and be successful in other ways, I think that we should make sure folks have that option, especially when over a third of Minnesotans are either non-religious or belong to a religious minority. So I really appreciate where you're coming with this. I think this will provide opportunities for success for a whole lot more people, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Representative Karan. From there, we'll go to Vice Chair Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chair Freiberg. This is a good bill. Happy to support it. One of the other efforts that is going on in the legislature is we often hear about the 1115 waiver that I know Chair Knorr is also advocating for. My question then is there intersectionality between what you're advocating for along with the 1115 waiver in regarding the requirements for the 1115 waiver in AA services, and how do those two bills interact with each other? I want to make sure that we can do both, and if there's going to be conflict, that we just address that too.
I would probably defer over to Chair Knorr, seeing this starts falling into what he's been working on.
I would greatly appreciate that.
So Chair Knorr, I'll let you take first swipe at it there.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I think the question about the 1115 waiver is for pre-release individuals so that they can get their coverage at least 90 days to what I want to do, so that when they're released, they already have their coverage, they get the care that they need, the medications that they need while they're still incarcerated. So I think there isn't much of interaction, but then when someone is already being in the process of being pre-released, this may come into play. So I think that is after the fact.
Okay. Vice Chair Frederick. Okay, and then next I have Representative Edelson.
No, I'm good.
All right. Seeing no other questions out there, back to Chair Freiberg. I invite you to make any closing comments.
Thank you. I really appreciate the discussion. The intent of this bill is just one of greater options and more culturally appropriate ones, as you pointed out, Representative Curran. You know, the programs that are out there right now do a great job for a lot of people, but they don't work for everybody. So happy to keep working with people as this moves forward. I really appreciate your time. I do think this is a goal we should move towards, though. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Chair Freiberg. I will renew my motion that House File 3486 as amended be re-referred to the Public Safety, Finance, and Policy Committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed saying nay.
Nope.
The motion is approved, and House File 3486 as amended is re-referred to the Public Safety, Finance, and Policy Committee. Thank you, Chair Freiberg.